Hi everybody, my name is Lycia Heath. I'm the CEO of Women for Election Australia, and you're about to listen to our inaugural online information session. It really is a half hour of power to give you a bit of a taste of the different types of toolkit and information we provide at our 1-day or 2-day events at Women for Election. I was an attendee at the inaugural 2017 Sydney Conference for Women for Election, and it was at that session and the subsequent sessions that I attended that I really found the skills that I needed, but importantly, the confidence to be able to put myself forward when the opportunity came to stand in the Wentworth by-election. I have no doubt that in 2018, had I not attended those previous events, I just would not have felt able to step forward. Really, you're going to hear more and more from Women for Election, our chant, which is 2000 by 2022. That is, Women for Election wants to inspire and train 2,000 women between now and the next federal election to stand. Those are women that weren't going to stand otherwise. And that's what a bit of this session covers off. Why do we want more women in our legislative chambers? Well, I could give you 100 reasons, but I'll stick with just 4. Firstly, women bring a different leadership style. They bring a more collaborative style. And if adversarial politics is not really ringing your bell at the moment, consider what a more cross-party chamber would look like. Women also tend to be more visible out in their electorates. They tend to take more constituent meetings. They tend to be more representative of their constituents as well. Think about your federal member, your state member, how often you see them out and about, and if you feel represented by them currently. Another good reason is that women have a broad view of policies that they like to address. Legislative chambers that have good gender parity tend to discuss and implement a broader set of policies that tend to have a greater positive impact for more in the community as well. And also, seeing more women in our legislative chambers are taking part in our democratic process tends to promote a greater sense of trust in the process, and also helps provide role models for other women, maybe even younger women, to see as well. Now, I ran in the Wentworth by-election. That's the first time I ran. Keep in mind that you may want to run at a local government, state government, or federal government level. And we'll touch on all of those in the session shortly. But to get the skills, you don't need 100% of the skills before you put yourself forward. I certainly didn't, but I know that my participation helped change the conversation of that by-election and had an ultimate result on the policies that were discussed and ultimately the successful member put forward as well. There's lots of definition of success. So let me introduce our training partner, Ruth McGowan. Ruth not only has been a councillor herself and also a mayor, she was also a vital part of the success of her sister, Cathy McGowan's federal campaigns in the Victorian seat of Indi. She's now a facilitator and a coach in her own right, our wonderful training partner. And she's going to talk to you about some of the things you should consider when you are going to run a campaign. Enjoy.
We're at encouraging more people to get political. Now, there's different ways you can do that, and there's some 3 sort of standard hashtags which I like to use on Twitter, and so does Women for Election. So there's 3 levels that you can be her, so you can run. And we've had a number of candidates, participants on this webinar that have done that. The other thing is you can support her. So you can find a good woman and support her to run. Or she might be an existing politician as well. So we do know that, for instance, in local government, where I've got a lot of experience personally and also supporting people on campaigns, is that each election, which is often on a 4-year term. Each election, about 50% of the incumbents don't get elected. They either retire or they run again and they're not successful. So we might, we also focus on, once women are into politics, it's important to support them because they seem to not hang in there as long as the blokes do. The third level that you can do is ask a woman to run. And we have a saying that around the traps for women that have been in politics for a while is it takes 5 taps on the shoulder, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to encourage a woman to run for politics. It's a big scary thing. So asking a woman and saying, I reckon you'd be great, is often the first step in getting a woman thinking about running for politics. So thinking about those levels, today in this short sharp webinar, I'm going to focus what I've got this time on, well, if you've decided to run, what to do now. And in these COVID times, to use that jargon word, campaigns are pivoting to online. And it's really important to think about, well, how do we engage online when those traditional tools like door knocking or going to public meetings, they're not available because of COVID restrictions. So how to campaign online, and I'll touch base on that a little bit. So apart from the Eden-Monaro by-election coming up, the next elections coming up are, well, state elections in Queensland, but local government elections are coming up in Victoria, and I think half the participants online here in Victoria, and then quite a few, the rest of the participants are from New South Wales. And we do have one from Japan. So if you're going to make the decision to run for politics, I would encourage you to think about the 4 different levels. And I do look at community groups as where you can earn your stripes and get your networks happening. So there's lots of positions that you can nominate and get elected at a local community group. So that might be schools, school councils, kindergartens. I often used to say when I was mayor, everything I learned about politics I learned as president of the school kindergarten committee, and then parent of friends, and then on the school board. So there are lots of local leadership roles where I encourage people to think about their career trajectories getting into politics. Service clubs, Rotary, Lions, Probus, emergency services, whether that's fire or other emergency services, life-saving clubs, and there's sporting clubs and there's religious groups. They're just some examples of how you can get elected locally. The next level to get elected and be heard is local politics, local government. And there's actually 333 councils across Australia and about 5,300 elected councillors. So there's lots of opportunities to get elected to local council. The Victorian elections are coming up on the 24th of October, and as we know, New South Wales elections have been postponed to 2021, likely to be September, and the Queensland ones have just been held. So they're happening, those local ones. And then state government, depending on where you are, this is an example in Victoria that I've pulled it from. It's the one I'm most familiar with, is the lower house has 88 districts. So that's 88 lower house politicians are elected there and representing on average 50,000 people. And the upper house, there's 5 districts throughout Victoria, and then there's 5 people elected per upper house. That each district has about 470,000 members. So the 4th level, if people often think politics is all about federal politics, my point is there's actually lots of other layers where you can run as well, which are in some ways easier, because to get to federal politics, people go, I'll run for the Senate. They don't realise that actually need, that's representing 700,000 people. So to get elected to the Senate, you need a lot of votes. So local council elections, you can see that one now, Licia. So when you're thinking about that, I'd encourage people to look at, well, which council will you run in? The election guidelines suggest that it's where you live, but you could also, in Victoria, you can have a residence somewhere else, and as long as you own property somewhere else, you can also run there. So there's there's an opportunity to think about, well, what council will you run in? And I'm wondering, I've got the picture of the chat box there because I want to hand it over to you a little bit. If you could put in the chat box, what is your local council? And do you know the name of your local council? Who represents you locally? So I can see there. So I'm seeing quite a lot of points there coming up. Melbourne, Albury, Banyule. Quite a diverse range there, Licia, isn't there?
Yeah, but good knowledge as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So some great diversity there. Thanks everyone for putting that in the chat box. So if we're thinking about local government, which my point is that it's often the easiest one to get involved in first into politics, whether you're running yourself or to get on a campaign, then we haven't got long to go in Victoria. We've got less than 5 months. And I haven't got the crystal ball to understand what the New South Wales local government minister is going to predict, but when the New South Wales local government elections were deferred, it was said for a year. And as we know, it was going to be September this year. So I'm looking at, well, let's say it's that similar time in September 21, that would be 16 months away. And that will go pretty quickly. And who knows, the local government, if COVID blows over and there's not this predicted second wave, there might even be pressure on the local government minister to do it in March or May. I haven't got that crystal ball, folks. Someone else might have, but I haven't. So if we're looking at New South Wales, that's 16 months, 68 weeks, but Victoria's only 22 weeks. And you can see there that that time is going to happen pretty quickly. So what to do, I'll focus now on Victoria because it's going to happen before New South Wales, but the principles I'm talking about, if you can keep these in mind if you want to run for an election anywhere. So it's a COVID election. That's my Brady Bunch there. Did anyone watch the Brady Bunch? I see show of hands coming up there. So whenever I'm thinking about Zoom meetings, I'm thinking the Brady Bunch. And the poor Alice is the one that's the host, which Lycia's doing at the moment. So good on you, Lycia. You never thought I'd compare you to Alice from the Brady Bunch, but there you go. So Zoom meetings are a great tool in terms of engaging with your community at the moment and also engaging with your candidate, your campaign team that are going to support you as the candidate. And there's a few other online tools that even when it's not COVID times are really useful to coordinate your team that are going to support you. At the very bare minimum, that can be through emails, but there's some fancy tools like Slack that I'm sure a few of you are familiar with, WhatsApp groups, all those sort of things, you can get that going. I've put that keep calm, carry on because women are very good at adapting and we always have and we will do it for this election campaign. So it's a matter of thinking, well, what's different? How can we engage so we can get people to vote for us? Some of the tools that have been useful at the moment that I would encourage people to think about is, of course, Facebook. And it's interesting, I've been looking at some of the data on Facebook and the usage in COVID time has increased by 50 to 70%. So your community's on Facebook, your community groups are on Facebook. That's how you can listen in and hear what the issues are as a candidate. Of course, I would encourage you to get your own Facebook page. So it might be Julie Smith for West Ward, Cardinia Shire, whatever. Get that Facebook happening now. Get your Instagram happening. Get your Twitter happening. Get all your social media real estate because that's the megaphone of how you will talk to your community, but it's also how you'll hear what's happening. And the other great thing that's happening at the moment, I got some information there before about your councils and where you're living, is that the vast majority of council meetings are now online. So you can attend a virtual council meeting and listen in from the comfort of your couch with a rosé in your hand or a beer or whatever you like. Listen to that council meeting and you don't have to go there and physically climb stairs and go to a cold chamber at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. You can listen in and you'll get to hear what the issues are being discussed. If you've never been on committee meetings before, you'll get to understand some of the meeting procedures and how moving motion works. And it will actually give you a little bit more confidence in running. The other thing I like to say is that you'll see who's there, and I reckon you'll look at some of those councillors and go, I can do a better job than that, because you can, and you will. So check out those council meetings and look at some that are next door. So you've got, like I said, there's 533 councils around Australia, and the vast majority of them are online. And it's actually quite interesting to look at how they go. The other thing is that I would also say in COVID times, don't forget the traditional media. So still reach out to your journalists, tell them what you're doing, still write letters to the editor of your local paper, unless it's been made redundant because of COVID, but writing letters to your local paper, people read that. So if you live in a rural area, people will read the local paper and they'll read the letters to the editor, so there's an opportunity for you to build your profile there. I haven't got that much more, Licia. I just wanted to encourage people to look at if you're in New South Wales, they've got a section there on the election, so keep an eye on that. Follow them on Twitter so you get the updates. In Victoria, there's a few deadlines that people need to be aware of, and all those deadlines are on the VEC page, so they've got a candidates page as well. They're going to have compulsory candidate training, and hopefully that will be announced in June, what you need to do. So every candidate has to do that training. Same thing happened in Queensland, and you get certified that you've done it, and then you can run as the candidate and put your nomination forward in the middle of September. So what happens in Victoria is all the elections are postal, and the postal ballot actually goes out about 3 weeks before the election. So in Victoria, people need to be ready to jump on all their media now to build their profile, because come early October, which is less than 4 months away, the ballot papers will land on people's kitchens tables and they'll be voting in early October, even though the election isn't till the 24th. So postal elections are a little bit different, and we can go into all this in more detail through the Equip and Inspire days that Women for Election run, where we've got a couple of hours to talk about how to run an effective campaign. But the 4 steps I'd suggest is, if you are going to run, commit publicly. Even if you want to run in the New South Wales local government elections and you're thinking, that's, 16 months away, why would I worry about that now? Well, the useful thing is that people will come on board to start help and support you. And you never know when the local government, with a stroke of a pen, could call those elections forward too. But if you're prepared, you're halfway there. Commit publicly that you're running, set yourself goals of what you want to do. So you might want to get 1,000 supporters on Facebook. You might want to raise $5,000 to run a mail campaign, because when you become a candidate, you get all the addresses of registered voters from the Electoral Commission. So you get, if you're on a typical size council, it might have 40,000 people, or could have 140,000 people. You get all those names and addresses, and they're a goldmine of data. What are you going to do about it? If you've got enough money, you can send out direct mail to every voter and say, vote for me. But that's really important to do your budget so you don't go into the red. And then I'd say, step by step, work through your jobs. It can be a little bit overwhelming, so I want to encourage you as a candidate. And if you're on a campaign team supporting someone, just take it a step at a time. You don't have to have, total confidence, because you'll get that on the campaign trail. And just get started and take a step at a time and work your way through to election day. This year did mention Get Elected. I'd encourage you to get a copy of that. It's got a lot more detail about what I spoke about today. So I invite you to get a copy of that. And there's the details. I guess, Licia, I will hand it over to you, and we can look at some of those questions and comments and clarifications in the chat box. I'm happy to look at some of those, or you can ask me some, Licia. You've probably had a chance to look at some of them.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, look, thank you, Ruth. I think this was always meant to be a half hour of power. Our sessions are normally done over a full day event or a 2-day event. And at those events, so Ruth, you might want to have a quick look at some of the questions, but at those events, you and we are moving those to online, so make sure you're across our website and get our newsletter, so when you know when events have been announced. But at those events, we do deep dives into things like public speaking, policy production, how you would use social media versus mainstream media, how do preferences work? You know, I had a crash course on that in 2018, and it is an absolutely confounding and almost black magic kind of concept, but it's such a critical part to elections, whether you choose to preference others or you choose not to, but understanding how they work is a very important element. Ruth does a fabulous exercise, I've seen her do it many times, which is, would you pre-select yourself? So if you looked at yourself on paper and you were a pre-selection committee, would you pre-select yourself? What's your profile like? What's your running sheet like? If I look at your social media right now, are you dangerous as a candidate? You know, there's all these tangible skills that once you learn, not only obviously kit out your toolbox, but it gives you such the confidence to step forward when the time is right. And that brings me to a couple of extra things. The messages I kept hearing when I wasn't CEO of this organization, but I was an attendee, were you'll never feel ready, step forward anyway. Just like a job interview, treat it like anything else. On average, it takes 3 times to run before you get elected. And that's not gendered, that's the same for men. So if we all wait until we have 100% of the skills, the data still says you are unlikely to get elected. So it is a learning journey. The other thing is, timing is everything. So while I had a plan to run in, say, 6 years' time, I had no idea that my federal member was about to have effectively a bullet put in him by his party that forced a by-election. And that compressed my 6-year plan into 6 weeks. So timing is everything. So you need to be prepared. Your local councillor who might be about to retire unexpectedly, or really God knows what could happen at the state level in your seat. You need to have some level of preparation, because when that happens, you need to move quickly. And when something comes out of the blue like that, the likelihood that you will have more cut through is much greater as well.
Yeah, that's right. And look, there's a few really good points there. And I think with the New South Wales local government elections being postponed, there's going to be quite a few councillors that are just so tired that are going to go, stuff it, I have not got another 12 months in me. Or like, who knows, with this second wave coming, they actually might get sick, their family might get sick, it could just all blow up. None of us know. I've got a few questions there that I just did want to answer. I have got the tools are in here, folks, so have a look. There's been some really nice complimentary comments coming out there. The tools are in here. It's for local, state and federal, so have a look at that. I would encourage you, there's a few questions there about a party or independent. I would encourage you to think about, well, where do your values align? And you can also get on a campaign team. If you're red or blue or green or orange, whatever you are, get on a campaign team and see how it works in reality. You get experience and you get to see how their values are. There's a few other independent parties coming up. There's one, Common Sense for Democracy, like in the North Shore of Sydney. I think they have public events. I think there's someone on here today that's involved in that, Denise Shrivell, who can put some comments there. There's the New Liberals. So they're sort of, they're not the ALP or the Greens or the Nats. They are a political party. They're in between. So you've got independents here. You've got the parties here that are the not major political parties. You've got the political parties over there. I'm apolitical, multi-partisan, so I'm not going to say go for any party. I'm going to encourage you to go and join a party. There's a couple of women candidates that are running, say, for the by-election in Eden Monero. You can go down there and help hand out, help get on those campaigns, and that will give you a taster and see what's going on. I would encourage people to think about, there's a comment there, what are my thoughts on becoming, Elizabeth's asking, what are my thoughts if you become a target to the opposition once people know for sure that you're running? Well, there's two schools of thoughts on that. You can leave your announcement to the very last minute, but they've got the run on you and you've got the handicap because you're running late. Or you could jump out of the blocks now and get it over and done with. Whatever they chuck at you, they're going to do now. The other thing that we did in the Indi for Independent for Indi campaign, when I was campaign coordinator on Cathy McGowan's campaign for the federal seat of Indi, we actually came out early with the campaign ethics of how we were going to campaign, and we invited the other candidates to sign the ethics pledge. And St James Ethics Centre has got a politician's code of conduct. They've got an ethic pledge. So you can actually come out, and when they go low, you go high. So there's some tactics that I talk about in my book too about dealing with dirty politics. Karina's asked, should local government be non-political? Well, I guess it depends where you are. I mean, some of those inner suburban councils are notorious, particularly in New South Wales, that, you know, I don't know, you do politics different there, but Victorian councils aren't, inner urban ones can be political, and in some local governments they're actually doing pre-selections for the ALP and for the Greens. To my knowledge, I don't think they're doing pre-selection for local government positions with the Nationals or with the Liberal Party. Someone could correct me on that. But I see a lot of councils that work collectively for the local good, for the community, and politics is put aside because it's grassroots democracy. And people will stop you in the supermarket. I used to have to take a notebook with me in my handbag when I went to the supermarket because people would come up to me. And that's what makes local government so different, is that it's just accountable every day. Every single moment you're out there, people know you, they know where you live. It's a bit different to being a senator. So great to have the ALGA New South Wales president, Cassandra, speaking there. Everything is political, and they're a fantastic organisation, the Australian Local Government Women's Association. They've got branches in every state. They have great conferences. I would encourage you to join them. They've got good Facebook page, great Twitter. We also have I admin a Facebook page as a volunteer in Victoria called More Women for Local Government. I welcome you to join that if you'd like to. It's obviously pretty Victorian focused. The Victorian Local Governance Association runs training workshops for women that are interested in being candidates. They've also got a really good resource book, free, online. We could probably put that in some of the follow-up links, Licia. You've got people's email addresses there. Local Women Leading Change, that's a great resource. I really would congratulate everyone out there who's thinking about running at the moment. As Licia says, you know, you've got to give it a couple of shots to get up. But even if you're not ready to run, get involved in your community, get elected, build your profile, get on someone's campaign. Support her, ask her, be her.
Thank you, Ruth. Look, I'm just going to finish on a couple of things there, which is another great resource is our website. So if you haven't visited it, please, wfea.org.au. Not only is that where we house our future events and different content of interest, we will very shortly be launching on the website a register of all the political parties in Australia. There's a few of them, and then some of them are state specific or upper house specific, and contact details as well. That is not housed anywhere in the country, which is why we've chosen to build it. And I would say that will be live next week as a resource for you. Also listed there, we're currently doing a survey. I would really encourage you, please, to do that survey and share it with your network. It's about women's experiences during COVID, and it's part of launching our 2000 by 2022 campaign. There is no doubt, and I know I'm preaching to the converted with this audience, that women have had to burden an extraordinary amount, whether they're homeschooling, whether they're first responders, whether they're the casual workforce. And a big element of that is not having women's voices in our legislative chambers to be able to adjust for these kind of scenarios. But we need tangible, anecdotal evidence. So please do that survey, upload a video of yourself, be brave enough, practice some of the skills in terms of a 60-second video talking about your experience, and you're about to see me load a video there about some tips and traps about videos, like putting yourself in too much darkness in videos. And then beyond that, please keep in mind that our next event is actually next week, where we have an In Conversation series with one of our 2018 alumni, who is Christy McBain, who is running in the federal seat of Eden-Monaro in the by-election. Now, I'm very conscious, Karen, that you are on this call running for the new Liberal Party, and I can't help but think that, in fact, we should be running an event that has you both on a panel, and if the Liberal candidate ends up being a woman as well, we're just going to shout from the rooftops, to be frank. So I might get in touch with you separately about that. But there's a registration link on our website to attend that now. So please head there. And finally...
Yeah, and Kirsty McBain's been at a few of your things too, hasn't she? So,
yeah, she's alumni from our course in 2018.
Well, we could see 3 women candidates there, so that would be great.
Unbelievable. So
just in 2 minutes, I've got a couple of questions that I was going to get back to. Is that all right?
Yes, but we only have 2 minutes because we're going to get cut off, Ruth.
Yeah, so people talk to Karen if you want to get on a team, and a couple of the other candidates down there, whatever your colour are. Willoughby are looking for a woman candidate for the council elections.
Yep, thanks, Peter.
East Gippsland, have a crack at that. There's been women mayors there. I reckon local government is a really great place to start, particularly if you don't know what colour politics you are. Just go independent, give it a crack. And we will keep in touch with people with follow-up emails, won't we?
Yep, absolutely. You'll get something. Yeah. So this is going to be recorded. It'll be in a library on our session, and we'll be announcing a more deep dive skills session as we lead into the election cycle. So I'd encourage you to keep on top of that, and please share with your friends as well. But I'm so happy to see so many women interested in getting involved in politics and improving the status quo in our Australian landscape, regardless of the tier of whether it's local, state or federal. So thank you for your time today. Please consider donating to our efforts. We're a not-for-profit. We need to get 2,000 women running by 2022, and we need to raise $30,000 in order to do that. So if you have the ability to donate or help us fundraise, then we'd be grateful. But one way or the other, we're going to do it. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to the next session with you.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thanks, Ruth.
Cheers.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.